Kentucky football picks up a massive win over the Iowa Hawkeyes in the Citrus Bowl, and Kentucky basketball picks up wins over High Point and Missouri. We talk about all of those three victories on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, also host of On the Line on ESPN 106.7 and Fox Sports Central Alabama, also writer for USA Today for various SEC-related things, but on this podcast specifically, we take a dive into all things Kentucky athletics. Today's episode is brought to you by Sonos. Experience the game like never before with the Sonos Arc, the premium smart soundbar for TVs, movies, music, gaming, and more. Visit Sonos.com to learn more. All right, Kentucky victors of the Citrus Bowl over Iowa. 20-17 was the final score. Did not look like Kentucky was going to be able to pull it out after such a poor second half showing, but they were eventually able to put together a scoring drive to get a victory over Iowa. 10-win season, first since 2018. I believe I've seen out there over the past couple of days, different things floating around. Like since 2017, 2016, Kentucky's had two first-round picks. They have a 33-16, 33-17 record. They've had two 10-win seasons and obviously capped this season off with a win in the Citrus Bowl. Going to go over some key moments, some key statistics, some key players in this game. Just going to talk about everything that kind of happened in this Citrus Bowl. Chris Rodriguez, who had 20 attempts for 107 yards and one touchdown. Kentucky's running back was absolutely phenomenal in this game. He did not necessarily have a ton of explosive running plays in this game, right? He didn't necessarily have anything that really wowed you in terms of like, here's a chunk play of 45, 30 yards or more, something like that. What he did was keep this Kentucky offense balanced, and that's what they desperately needed against the Hawkeyes, a very sound defense, both statistically and when you watch them on tape. It would have been very difficult for Kentucky to have just tried to survive throwing the football the entire game had Chris Rodriguez not been a legitimate factor in the offense. He also caught one touchdown, one reception for 5 yards in this game, so two total touchdowns for Chris Rodriguez, but he was not the MVP of this game. I'll talk about that really quickly before we get to the MVP, talk about that touchdown catch. That was on the first drive of the game for Kentucky. Right after Iowa had stalled out, Kentucky got the ball back and then marched right down the field and scored what was a very impressive drive. It was a very impressive drive from Kentucky, and it was a really nice play calling, especially on that touchdown. It was a little throw into the flat, kind of like a swing pass to Chris Rodriguez, and he just kind of waltzed into the end zone. Really nice play calling early on. Really good stuff from the Kentucky offense early on. The MVP of this game, though, Wan'Dale Robinson, 10 receptions, 170 yards, and caught passes of, listen to this. Okay, so Kentucky was down on their final drive, 13-17. They needed a touchdown to win the game. Wan'Dale Robinson caught passes of 7, 17, 10, and 52 yards on that final drive of the game. He had every single catch that was made on that drive. Absolutely impressive stuff from Wan'Dale. He took a shot, I believe, on one of those plays, and he got all the way down inside the 2-yard line on that 52-yard catch. Really, really impressed with the way that Wan'Dale stepped up when Kentucky needed him the most, and that was kind of a question that we talked about on Thursday with Lock On Hawkeyes host Andrew Wade. We asked the question, would Iowa actually be able to slow down Wan'Dale Robinson, and if so, how? And we kind of discussed, like, well, teams in the past have typically used bracketed coverage. They've used different things like that, and so what we would expect is to just see a lot of focus, a lot of attention on Wan'Dale Robinson in this matchup, and certainly that was the case. But whenever Kentucky needed it most, when they needed to move down the field and get yardage, Wan'Dale Robinson was there, and he was able to pick up some crucial catches in the most important part of the game for the Wildcats. Spencer Petras, the Iowa Hawkeyes quarterback, had one touchdown and threw 3 interceptions. Now, one of those was on a Hail Mary before the end of the half, so 2 interceptions technically, but 3 interceptions is what he finished with in his stat line. The turnover margin in this matchup was was critical. It was a talking point all the way back in early December when this game was announced. I went through and broke down every single game for the Hawkeyes and how turnover margin was incredibly important in their wins. It was incredibly important in their losses as well. When this defense does not create turnovers, therefore getting better field position for their offense that is not very good, this Iowa team has a really hard time scoring points and winning football games. And to have a -2 turnover margin, Will Levis threw a pick himself, so -2 turnover margin in this bowl game was really, really critical for the Hawkeyes. Although I will say something positive that the Hawkeyes did, Iowa had 173 yards rushing, so that's 5.8 yards per attempt. The defensive line was getting pushed around for what felt like the majority of the second half. Early on in the game, Iowa's play calling, I'm not going to lie to you, I was really confused by some of the things that they were trying to do. Obviously, they were trying to get their playmakers in space. I believe their leading receiver was out of this game. Tyler Goodson, the running back, was also out of this game. So they were just trying to do a bunch of different things that didn't necessarily work out in the second half or in the first half. In the second half, they adjusted, and a lot of it had to do with just straight up running the football and just kind of pushing that Kentucky defensive line around. The reason that Iowa did not score more than 17 points in this game, even though I think they had a very solid day, at least in terms of what their offense is capable of doing, that a really solid day yardage-wise. The reason that they didn't score more points is that Kentucky hogged the football. And not only that, Iowa had 3 turnovers, but Kentucky hogged the football. 37 minutes and 36 seconds in time of possession for the Wildcats, and I absolutely love that. Look, you're dealing with an offense that you don't necessarily know a whole lot about, considering there are so many different playmakers that are having to step up in this bowl game for the Hawkeyes. You don't know a ton about those guys, right? So your best bet is to try and hold on to the football, try and run the football a little bit, and see if you can milk some of this clock so that this Iowa offense does not necessarily have a lot of time on the field. Because I was very critical of Iowa back in early December when I broke them down. I said that this was an atrocious offense, and to be quite honest with you, it still is. But to not be able to have a full scouting report on some of the guys that were playing out there for a long time, actually, on Saturday, it makes it really, really difficult to be able to get a legitimate scouting report in and be able to hold them. So to be able to keep away the ball from the Iowa Hawkeyes offense was impressive. One more note here. Kentucky was 6 of 14 on third down. There were several moments in this game where Kentucky needed a clutch conversion to keep a drive going, to just kind of survive in the game late especially, and Kentucky was usually able to deliver. Now, that offensive line did not hold up very well, including on third down, but I really liked what I saw from this team whenever it needed to get points, whenever it needed to do something, whenever it needed to make a play. It felt like Kentucky was stepping up consistently in this game. And then an interception sealed it late. And I believe the Wildcats had only gotten 6 interceptions the entire season. They pick up 3 to bring their total to 9 on the year. Very impressed with this unit, this defensive unit, the offensive unit, creating clutch play after clutch play whenever they needed to the most. We're going to talk about Kentucky basketball's win over Missouri. Opened up conference play in a huge way, continuing to build on the momentum that they started building whenever they beat North Carolina just a couple weeks ago. We're going to talk about their win over Missouri in just a second. But before I tell you guys about that, I want to tell you guys about our friends at Get Upside. All right, Kentucky fans, let me tell you about an incredible app everyone who buys gas needs to know about. Get Upside. If you have Get Upside, as all Locked On Kentucky listeners should, then you will be making up to 25 cents for every gallon of gas every time you fill up. Just download the free app, the Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now, and you can use promo code SCORE and get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cents cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Again, just download the app for free using promo code COLLEGE to get up to 50 cents a gallon back on your first tank. Some people are 50 cents a gallon cash back on your first tank. Some people who drive a lot are making as much as $200, $300 a month in cash back, and there's no catch. The cash back gets added right to your account. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, your PayPal, or an e-gift card or Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code COLLEGE to get 50% a gallon cash back on your first tank. Again, that's COLLEGE for 50 cents a gallon on your first tank. All right, moving along here, Kentucky basketball. Last Wednesday, did not get a chance to talk about this at all, actually. We were previewing the Citrus Bowl with Iowa Hawkeyes before New Year's Eve. Kentucky basketball picked up a huge win over the Missouri Tigers on Wednesday, it was. And, I think I was sitting here breaking this game down on Wednesday, and I had a lot of doubts, right? I had a lot of worry about what this Kentucky team was going to be able to do now that they had kind of built some momentum. Would they be able to kind of continue what they were building on? And I concluded Wednesday's podcast saying yes, they would. And we talked about why they would. We talked about this Missouri offense and how poor it is. We talked about the defense wasn't that great either. And we thought, honestly, it's a game at Rupp Arena. Kentucky should be able to catch a dub here, and they did. 83-56 was the final score, just an absolute blowout in Rupp Arena to open up conference play. Missouri did what they normally do, which is not make shots. They were 32.8% from the floor, so it's 22 of 67 from the floor, and they shot 20% from three. They made 5 of their 25 threes that they took, and that was kind of the thing that really bothered me about this Tigers team, coming into Rupp Arena. They didn't have Konzo Martin, their head coach. They couldn't shoot the basketball, and Kentucky had a lot of momentum. Those were the 3 talking points for us on Wednesday's podcast. And, all of those things kind of seemed to be a legitimate factor in this matchup. Now, Kentucky did not shoot as well from 3 as I thought they would. I believe Missouri is allowing opponents to shoot about 36% from downtown on the year, and Kentucky only shot 29.4% in this game, I believe. But still, Kentucky was able to kind of dominate and do what they normally do. Speaking of doing things that Kentucky normally does, how about 20 rebounds from Oscar Tshiebwe? Just kind of typical at this point. We see this every other game. We see this every other day. Oscar Tshiebwe just being dominant in the paint, controlling things offensively and defensively, grabbing a ton of rebounds. Keon Brooks, who So we did a breakdown of every single player that has gotten significant playing time on Kentucky's roster just a few episodes ago. We gave each player a grade coming out of non-conference play, and I was not pleased with Keon Brooks simply because of his shot selection. And it feels like he went back, he watched that episode, and he's like, all right, Lance is upset with my shot selection. Well, I'm going to continue to take those shots, and I'm going to knock him down in the SEC opener. 17 points, 9 rebounds for Keon Brooks. Just shot very, very well, and a lot of it did come from that mid-range area, right? A lot of it did come in transition, pulling up, making little jump shots, little layups, different things like that. And I'm going to say I'm impressed. I'll say if the three-point shot is not his, if that is designated for some other player on this team, and that's what he wants to be known as, is that guy that can make that pull-up jumper, then you know what? If he's going to make it, then I'm all for it. But if he doesn't, then I'm going to be critical. But Wednesday night, Wednesday night, really impressed with what he was able to bring to the table. Only 11 turnovers for the Wildcats on this night, and that has been an issue with Severe Wheeler pushing the ball up the floor. At least it was early on in conference play, was turnovers for the Wildcats. Only 11 in their SEC opener. Only 13 fouls on Kentucky as well. Missouri had 23, which is just... You see that foul discrepancy and you think that there was something wrong. It's just honestly the fouls that Missouri committed were fouls, and Kentucky really didn't commit any fouls. They played relatively clean. Kentucky was also 22 of 26 from the free throw line, and Missouri was 7 of 10. 25 points in transition for the Wildcats on Wednesday, and Severe Wheeler was a huge part of that. We've talked about his ability to play well in transition, talk about how patient he is sometimes in transition, leading a fast break. I know it kind of sounds weird. It kind of sounds weird to say a guy that's patient and decisive on a fast break, but Severe Wheeler is really, really good at doing so. He had 9 of Kentucky's 12 assists, and 12 assists is nothing to write home about, but for one individual player to have 9, you got to be able to distribute the basketball a little bit more, at least I feel like. So those were some of the talking points from the Missouri game. Impressed with what the Wildcats did in their SEC opener, and we talked about building momentum, right? We talked about trying to get things going before SEC play really got into the thick of things. We were talking about this all the way back whenever we started this podcast, right? So I think it's going to be very important for Kentucky to continue to play well. They have LSU, by the way, tomorrow. We're going to have a huge preview of that matchup. Going to be a lot of fun. The LSU Tigers finally lost. They lost to Auburn last week, but they're still a very, very formidable opponent. Play great defense. Going to be a very tough win in Baton Rouge if Kentucky can come away with it. It's the new year, so that means New Year's resolutions. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, or maybe even better than a candy bar. Built Bar makes it easier to stick to your New Year's resolution because it tastes so good, you'll actually want to eat it, unlike other protein bars, which can be chalky, waxy, or taste like a chemical spill. You want to eat healthy, but it just gets so boring. By like week 3, you might be thinking, is this really worth it? Doesn't really feel like it. Where's the chocolate? Where's the sweets? Where's the good stuff? Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Here's an idea for the new year. Go to all your secret stashes at home, in the pantry, at the office, in the car, wherever. Throw out all the sugary or calorie-filled treats and replace them with Built Bars. So when you're craving a snack or a treat, you can reach for something that's healthy and also tastes incredible. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your order. Again, that's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, wrapping up the Monday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Really appreciate you guys making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Kentucky, High Point. This was a game on Friday. To be honest with you, I have no idea why the schedule maker said, you know what we should do right before conference play or right after conference play starts? Let's put High Point in the middle there, just kind of in a weird spot, and let's put it 2 days after they play Missouri. And this was looking like a little bit of a trap game heading into Friday, because High Point had just previously played Michigan State on Wednesday, same day that Kentucky played Missouri. And High Point was leading that game against the Spartans at halftime, and it was at Sparty. That is really, really confusing. The fact that 6-6 High Point was able to put up, and the entire game was a legitimate fight. I mean, you go back and watch the breakdowns that ESPN and different teams have put out, or different media outlets have put out. I mean, that was a dogfight. That was a dogfight all the way up until the end, and that was a concern heading into Friday. I was like, whoa, okay, so Kentucky gets a little bit of a reprieve against Missouri. Do we think that High Point is going to kind of come into Rupp Arena and shock them? Led by Tubby Smith, by the way, who had a jersey hung in the rafters on that day on Friday. Really awesome stuff to see Tubby Smith, former Kentucky Wildcats coach, get to have such an Auburn honor. It was an awesome moment. If you haven't seen the videos on Twitter or anything like that, it was awesome. Just to look at some of the things that happened in the game here real quick. Again, this was a team that led Michigan State at halftime on Wednesday. Kentucky led this game 43-25 at halftime on Friday, and a lot of it had to do with Kellen Gray, who was absolutely ridiculous. He had 23 points and shot 7 of 10 from 3. And this is what I continue to go back to, guys. This is what I've harped on over and over and over and over and over. Kellen Grady needs to get more shots. He needs to get more. This offense operates better whenever Kellen Grady is making threes, because what does that do for this offense? Well, they're transition-minded, right? They like to get out on the fast break. They like to sprint down the floor. They like to spread things out. And in order to actually spread things out, they need somebody on the perimeter that can knock down those shots. Most of the time, the ball's going inside to Oscar Tshiebwe. But when teams are kind of leaning on that, kind of expecting that defensively, best thing you can do is kick it out to a guy like Grady. Over 2,000 points at Davidson, shooting over 40%, I believe over 44% actually from 3 so far this season. He will hurt you. He will make the shot over half the time. If you get him on nights like this, you have to be able to continue to feed Kellen Grady the ball, because then teams may start to overcommit, may start to actually realize like, okay, we have to guard this guy in transition, we have to guard this guy in the half court, we have to keep an eye on him. Next thing you know, the ball's going to a guy like Ty Washington, who's been incredibly efficient as a freshman so far this season, or the ball's going back inside to Oscar Tshiebwe. Oh yeah, and by the way, Severe Wheeler has his nights as well. So the most important thing, I think, for this Kentucky offense is getting Kellen Grady the ball more in transition, getting him more in the half court. However they can get him touches from beyond the arc, I think is very, very important for this team, especially in SEC play as things get more difficult. And I think it's especially so in March whenever the tournament rolls around. And this team's not missing the tournament. After seeing this team really ramp things up over these past few games, I can rest assured tell you Kentucky is not going to fall apart in SEC play, or at least I don't think. I hope. Again, reminding everybody, LSU Kentucky tomorrow. That game is at 6. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic matchup. We're going to have a breakdown right here on Locked On Kentucky. You do not want to miss it. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, turn the notifications on so that you get notified whenever that video comes out tomorrow. If you're listening on podcast, again, really appreciate you making this your first listen every single day. Do not forget this episode tomorrow, a preview of LSU and Kentucky is coming out. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. You can follow the show on Twitter at LockedOnUK. You can follow the show on Instagram at Kentucky Podcast. We've got stuff growing over there, awesome graphic and stuff being put out there. You can follow me on Dawe Pound. I will see you all tomorrow. LSU, Kentucky, it's going to be huge. See y'all then. God bless.